The company assembled for the dress rehearsal.
Keep on trucking, says the slogan. In fact, Kent Opera tours 3 different shows on the road twice a year. And on this occasion, scenery, lighting, props and costumes are taken to the Assembly Hall Theatre in Tunbridge Wells, where the dress rehearsal and the opening night will take place. Operas may seem remote from reality, but Teresa Cahill feels that this one is very relevant to today.
I think that Fidelio is a timeless opera because it will always be relevant on both levels. On the political level, there is always going to be oppression. People are going to be wrongfully imprisoned. The other half is equally important because it has such a unique statement to make about the human condition, about humanity on its highest level, as well as on its most evil level.
Moving in the scenery is often an all-night job, but before the sets can actually be built, there's a lot of work to be done, rigging all the stage lights. Transforming a bare stage into theatrical magic is a laborious business. Roger Norrington and Jonathan Miller have worked as a team on a number of occasions, something the conductor feels very beneficial.
The best productions will always be when the producer has enough confidence in the conductor to be able to defer. That can be very tiresome for a producer. It can be a great bore to have somebody saying, well, couldn't it be a little bit later or a bit earlier or something, or to actually have ideas about the production. But on the other hand, when it works well, it gives the singers on stage the feeling, the confidence that they're actually acting one piece and not 2. They aren't singing for the conductor and acting for the producer. They are doing both for both. So it's a risk which Jonathan and I have always taken, and there's always a certain amount of tension in the air as a result. But I think the final results have spoken for themselves.
Now, in Norrington's case, you have someone who takes an intense interest in the dramatic expression of the stage. Likewise, reciprocally, I hope that what I will say as a stage director may have some influence upon the way in which he will rebalance and re-emphasize the stresses of the music itself. But it is very much a give and take. And in the case of Norrington and myself, we've worked together now for 7 or 8 years, there is a strong understanding about how we work together, and it is, in that sense, very much a co-production.
The morning of the dress rehearsal. By now the set is built, and the numerous spotlights are being focused under the supervision of the lighting designer, Nick Chelton. What is his approach to this particular production?
What I feel one has to achieve with Fidelio is a feeling of penetration of sunlight, and the opera runs through waves of light and darkness. I think the set gives me a great opportunity to do that. All right, just come off that. And that's the approach I'm most interested in following with the opera. The dungeon is a curious mixture of a naturalistic set and an impression. The windows are created purely by highlighting windows painted on the gauze and which are present all the time. But when we get to the dungeon, there are 2 or 3 special lights set onto the windows so that they loom out of darkness. Then, in a more naturalistic way, there is the staircase going up to the daylight, which has a pair of high-intensity beam lights set straight down it, which is a much more naturalistic effect. And these are blended together and confused by the gauzes. But the use of gauze and transparencies is always unpredictable. I discovered new things on this show that I didn't realise I could do with it.
Once the lighting of the set is finalized, the auditorium has to be adapted to take an orchestra. Backstage, costumes are hung in the appropriate dressing rooms, wigs are prepared, and final touches are made to particular props. With still a little time to go before the dress rehearsal, Jonathan Miller has a brief word with Bernard Culshaw, who designed the sets and costumes. Life on tour can present problems for singers, since each hall has a different acoustic, as Teresa Cahill describes.
When we're touring, one doesn't have very long to get used to the theatres. Some are better than others. Sometimes we have a wonderful surprise when we open our mouths and feel something coming back to us. And sometimes when it disappears sort of 2 feet in front of us into a sort of cotton wool, then we just, again, hopefully don't let it bother us too much.
Many of the cast will have travelled down from London, although while on tour, they'll be living in digs. Early arrivals include singers like Meryl Drower and Teresa Cahill, who plays the leading role of Leonora. A dress rehearsal is a serious business, but it's also helpful to have a sympathetic audience to play to. Consequently, some friends, relatives and other well-wishers are specially invited to see the show.
I think this is my costume here, because I'm a priest. My name, can you see my name? See what else is here? Things here. This is what the soldiers have. These are the beards that people wear. They'll put the name on. Don't touch them, don't touch them. See? Is
that yours?
No, I don't have one.
The whole theatre seems to be full of activity, but one orchestral player has found a quiet dressing room for a spot of practice.
Wrinkles to bring out. This makeup's a bit dark, Wendy. You think it'll be alright?
Yeah. I think you've got more on today than you did on Saturday.
Yeah?
I only thought her nose looked a bit red the other day.
Gentlemen, this is your half-hour call. Half an hour, please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Some of the orchestra arrive early in order to size up the auditorium and make sure they have room to play in a theatre never designed for opera. Roger Norrington, their conductor, has some definite views on the positioning of the orchestra.
They aren't banished to the pit to do the work of the boilermen and send up a sort of occasional musical smoke signals. They're an absolutely crucial part of any opera and orchestra. You can pretend that you can't see them if you're sitting in the stalls, But if you're sitting anywhere else, and even in Covent Garden or any other house, you always see the orchestra, and they are there. They're making a very important part of the score. And I think that the Kent Orchestra know that they're taken very seriously. Sometimes pit players do get very depressed because they've never seen a singer for 10 years, nor have they even heard one sometimes. You need to hear and use your ears and enjoy what's going on. The scores are wonderful, and they enjoy playing them.
In these final stages, the producer has many last-minute problems. The mixture of singing and speech in this opera is a special concern.
Well, Fidelio has these rather awkward passages of spoken dialogue, rather awkwardly written, and not in themselves great works of art. And you have to have